Today I'm doing a video on Alien Romulus and how it's perfect Gothic science fiction movie. Very similar to Alien, of course, which I just did from the previous video. But the same content is going to be available on my podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're like, and you saw the YouTube video, if you're like, wait, that's the same thing. Well, yeah, it's exactly the same thing. So basically, this is essentially Speaking of Gothic podcast, but it's on YouTube. So there we go, because I got to have all the stuff all together. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about Alien Romulus. I just saw this movie last week. So as I record this today, it's the week of the 20th of August. And I saw it last Thursday night. And I have to say, I love this. I love this movie so much. It went back. So I'm a huge Alien fan, super fan. And I have so many Alien things. It's kind of ridiculous. And my wife is very sweet to put up with me. But I've been waiting for this movie for a long time, kind of with some trepidation, because I thought, you know what, please don't mess it up the way other franchises or other films in the franchise have been messed up. And so let me wind this backward. For me, my Alien movie, the status or the ranking of Alien movies are like this. James Cameron's Aliens is my number one favorite movie in my top 10 of all the movies I've seen over the course of my 50 plus years of watching way too many movies. And then even though Alien is a masterpiece, that's number two. And then before I squeeze in where Romulus is, I detest Alien 3. So for me, it's not canon. I kind of like Alien Resurrection. It's just fun. And it's so disconnected from the other ones. You know, I watched it recently and I kind of was laughing. So it's kind of like a fun popcorn movie. So, but having watched Alien Romulus, I can tell you right now that next to Alien, it is the perfect Gothic science fiction horror film. And it ranks number 3 in my ranking. So for me, it's Alien. I know that's probably blasphemy for some people, but I'm a James Cameron fan. I mean, I came to that movie first. Anyway, Alien, and then Alien Romulus. Now, of course, you know, on the given day, I mean, I could say, yeah, Alien's the best film in terms of since it set everything up. And then Aliens is great because more of an action sci-fi horror. But for sure, Alien Romulus is my third favorite film in this franchise. Again, I detest a bore. I wouldn't put out a copy of Alien 3 if it was on fire. I mean, I detest that movie so much because it undid every single thing that Aliens set up and that James Cameron set up. But I digress. Let's talk about Alien Romulus, because this movie was fantastic. I mean, and it's got some issues. It's got a couple problems, but I think that if you're an Alien fan, or if you've never seen an Alien movie, you could go into Alien Romulus and then you'd be set up and you'd be like, man, okay, that's what these movies are about. And then you could go back and watch Alien, and then you could go back and watch Aliens. So you don't necessarily have to have seen those, but if you're a completist like me, you'll definitely want to watch these. And I had my daughter and her boyfriend. They had never seen. My sons had seen Aliens, but she hadn't seen Alien or Aliens, and so she and her boyfriend watched the film before I took them to it that evening. They watched it like a day or two before, and they loved it. As a matter of fact, I'm so happy about this. My daughter's going to watch Aliens again because she says, okay, Alien Romulus takes place in between Alien and Aliens. There's like a 57-year gap, or I don't know how many years, but maybe 20 years or something. But anyway, it takes place in the middle of these movies. I think 20-something years after Alien. But now that she's seen all 3 of these movies, she's fascinated. She says, I think I'm going to go back and watch Aliens because now I kind of know what's going on, and I want to watch it, really soak up some details. And for a horror fan, purist, Alien fanatic like myself, that was just music to my dad ears. So But Alien Romulus. So if you don't know what Alien Romulus is about, I'm not going to spoil anything. Maybe a minor spoiler, but nothing that'll really take away from your viewing of the film. But the description is, while scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. And that is no freaking joke. I'm telling you right now. And kind of plot points. I'm sorry. The movie's directed by Fede Alvarez, and he co-wrote it with Rodo Ciagues, I believe. And I think it looks like there's a story credit by Dan O'Bannon, who wrote the original Aliens. And it stars Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson, Archie Renault, and a bunch of other folks. I don't even know their names. But kind of here's the plot. I'm going to kind of run down the plot to you. A Weyland-Yutani space... Oh my gosh. I should have my Weyland-Yutani hat on. Yes. That's how big of a geek I am. So I'm going to pause this video right in the middle. So if you know, you know. Now, of course, I don't like the fact that they're corporate overlords, but God, I love this hat. Yeah, and it's funny. I wore this hat in the theater the other night, and I was just sitting there waiting for the movie to begin. This girl walks up the aisle. She's like, "Oh, that hat is awesome." I was like, "Girl, you know what's up. You know what's up." Anyway, where was I? All over the place today. Okay, so here's the general plot. A Weyland-Yutani space probe investigates the wreckage of the USCSS Nostromo. I also have a Nostromo hat, but it's in my son's room. Collecting an organic specimen containing a xenomorph. Rain Carradine, an orphan, works with her adopted brother, Andy. And I'm going to tell you something about Andy in a second. At the colony Jackson Star. Now, this is where I want to go into the Gothic tropes, because since I talk about Gothic tropes in these videos, and I think it's good to talk about the environment of this movie, because the movie takes place in two primary environments. It takes place on this colony called Jackson Star, and it also takes place on the space station, the abandoned derelict space station called the Romulus. It's actually, part of it says Romulus and one side says Remus, and this is a reference to the Roman legend of Romulus and Remus, these two brothers. But anyway, you can look that up. I'm not going to go into that. But the world building is incredible. And if you remember the kind of the atmosphere on LV-426, Bradley's Hope, whatever, again, I'm not into that. I don't like the special edition as much as I love James Cameron. Special edition, I can't dig it. Maybe I need to watch it again. Maybe I need to watch it again and just see if I can open up my heart to that, because I love the special edition of The Abyss by James Cameron, but I just don't like seeing all the characters. I want to just... Anyway, I like the theatrical version. But again, I digress because I do that a lot. But the environment on the colony Jackson Star, it's actually quite horrific and quite Gothic. I mean, because this is a place, and there's a little scroll at the beginning. It tells you where you're at. And it said, days of sunlight, 0. I mean, this place is perpetually dark. To me, it reminds me of Blade Runner, the oppressive darkness and overcast skies, because this is a mining colony, and that's exactly what it looks like. And then, which leads me to another offshoot. Here I go again. Blade Runner and Alien in the same universe. Now, this is something that's been posited before by lots of people. But when I saw this colony that they were on, I thought, oh my gosh, for sure, they must be connected. And I can see how, because synthetics, artificial persons, they figure heavily into the alien mythos. And this one has one also, then his name is Andy, and he is Rain's. This is a minor spoiler, but if you watch the trailers, you can kind of figure this out. But Andy is Rain's adopted brother, and he's a synthetic human. Basically, he's been reprogrammed, and he's super nice, and he's like the absolute best character in this whole movie. And Rain was great. Katie Spaney did a great job. But the guy, Andy, was very complicated, very, very, very human, even though he was a synthetic. But if you go back to Alien, of course, there's Ash, the evil droid synthetic person who was all about the company's interests. And then if you jump forward to Aliens, then there's Bishop, the most heroic, human-centered android, synthetic person. I love Bishop. He's one of my favorite characters. And if you jump even further, again, jumping over that abomination that was Alien 3. Oh, I can't even talk about it. There were gems. There was parts of Alien 3 that I could have got behind, but they screwed it up in the first 5 minutes. So whatever. Anyway, I hate that movie. But sorry about that. But so then if you jump forward to Alien Resurrection, which I like that because it's 200 years after the events of Alien 3, the abomination. And by this time, Ripley's a clone in Alien Resurrection. Spoiler alert, it came out in 97. So if you haven't seen this movie, shame on you. I mean, I'm not saying you have to watch it, but, it's been out there a long time. So Alien Resurrection, the Ripley in that is a clone, and her DNA is infused with alien DNA. I'm not going to tell you how, just watch the movie. But there is another synthetic person played by Winona Ryder, and the person's name escapes me right now, her character name, but she was awesome. So synthetics feature heavily in each of these alien movies, and this movie's no different. So when I look at the environment, the Gothic environment, I just think, man, it feels like these synthetics that are here in this planet in all these different environments and that the company's using, could they be the same ones as Rutger Hauer's, synthetics on, in the Blade Runner universe? They could, really. I don't think we ever saw, they didn't bleed white, but, maybe they're a different model. I don't know, but I think that seems to be building evidence that these worlds could be connected. And I guess Ridley Scott hopefully will answer that one day before he passes, because he's old, but whatever. I love Ridley Scott. But the Gothic environment, when you look at this movie, I consider that a Gothic environment. It's dark and stormy, overcast skies. And then when these young people, they basically go up to this derelict space station because, there's no life for them on Jackson's star. So they go to the derelict space station, the Romulus, which is just in orbit around the planet. And they go there to see if they can, forage or scavenge or find something that they can sell. And then they're going to go somewhere else. So that space station is its own Gothic environment. And when you watch this movie and you see the corridors, these open areas with cathedral-like ceilings, to me, that could be the Gothic castle, the Gothic mansion, the haunted house, all those environments. And again, going back to what I've talked about with the Gothic, those tropes with the grotesque, dark subject matter, supernatural and/or creatures, Gothic environments, persons in distress, a sense of isolation, suspense, mystery, tension, fear, heightened or exaggerated emotions, and characters who possess some kind of connection or ability. All these they're all laid out there. Now, of course, it's obvious because the grotesque is the fact that the alien in itself is grotesque. The face huggers, they're grotesque. This is all dark subject matter. And they're the creatures that are involved, right? We talked about the Gothic environment. I think in a movie like this is important. The environment is just as important as the creatures, because when they're on the space station seems to be looming over the characters in the dark corridors. And it seems like a labyrinth. And best Gothic movies, that's what they do. They create a labyrinth. They create this constant sense of dread to where you never know what's around the corner or what's in the next room or what's hiding in the shadows. And this movie does that particularly well. And I think that Fede Alvarez, the director, did a great job of not only embracing what had come before, but then kind of heightening that tension and heightening the frightening aspect, and taking this all the way back to what Ridley Scott did in Alien, because Ridley Scott did a masterful job in making you constantly look at the frame and trying to figure out where is this alien and where's it going to strike from and where is it hiding. So Fede Alvarez did a great job. And in this movie, there's these, I think it's 6 young people, 7, and they're all in distress because they're all in danger. even Andy, the synthetic person, he's smart enough to understand that they're all internal because there's, again, without getting into spoiler territory, there is an artificial person that was on the Romulus, and say that like they met kind of a gruesome fate. Oh. So Andy's smart enough to realize that, oh yeah, I don't want that to be me. And in this movie, of course, there's going to be, heightened exaggerated emotions because everybody's in a state of distress. And I think that is important for any horror film. And this is definitely, it's a science fiction film, but this is definitely a horror film. This one leans more into the horror than James Cameron did. James Cameron's film had elements of horror. It was mostly science fiction action, right? But the same way that Alien was a straight up horror film, it was a Gothic science fiction horror film. This one is indeed a Gothic science fiction horror film. Now, one of the tropes that I've talked about, not in Alien, that I mentioned before, is that sometimes the characters possess some kind of psychic link or connection or ability. I'm going to do a video on Nosferatu, the movie by Robert Eggers that's coming out. It's a Gothic horror film. It won't come out until December, but I'm going to do like not a breakdown of it necessarily of the trailer, but I'm just going to kind of talk about what I see in the trailer in terms of the Gothic. And in that particular trailer, you can tell that there's a character that has some sort of psychic connection to the Nosferatu character. So in this one, there's no psychic connection, but there is, again, without getting into Spoilerville, there is a connection between Andy and another character. And I'm not actually, there's two connections now that I think about it. So if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. There's a connection with his sister Rain, and there's a connection to something else on the space station. So I know I'm leaving that really vague, but again, I don't like to do spoilers when I talk about movies like this because I'm assuming I don't like spoilers anyway. So I want people to just go to the movie, and maybe if you listen to this first and then you go see the movie, you can go, oh, okay, I see what he's talking about. And then I didn't spoil anything for you. So then now if you come back, if you have comments, you put them down below and we can kind of chat about it. But again, without making this video too long, I just want to say that this is, I called Alien, I think I called it a perfect Gothic science fiction film. And this one is too. I mean, they're in the third act. There's a couple of issues, and there's a part where I'm like, oh, no, they're going there. They're not going to go there. And they went there. And the third act doesn't completely stick the landing, but it's not far off. So if Alien is a 10 out of 10, if Aliens is a 10 out of 10, I'm going to give Alien Romulus an 8 out of 10, only because of the third act. I mean, until the third act, this movie is chef's kiss. I mean, it's freaking perfect. And then it falls off, honestly, in the last 10 or 15 minutes, which sucks when a movie does that. But other than that, Fede Alvarez directed the hell out of this movie. So if you're looking for a great, again, if you're watching this, I'm assuming that either you just like me or you're interested in the Gothic. But for me, I'm always looking at every movie I watch through the lens of the Gothic, because it's just what I'm interested in. It's like I love this kind of research. And this has all the hallmarks of any other Gothic movie I've ever seen. It has a grotesque, dark subject matter, supernatural and or creatures, really creatures in this one. Fantastic Gothic environments, persons in distress, sense of isolation, because once they're on this space station, shit goes wrong is normal. And so then they're isolated, right? And they're in space as well. Suspense, mystery, tension, fear, dread, all that, distress, heightened exaggerated emotions. And there is a character, Andy is the character who has connections to his sister and also connection to something else on the space station. And again, I want to keep that vague. So if you've not seen Alien Romulus, go out and see it. I mean, if you love the Alien movies, you'll love it. Again, it's not perfect. So like I told you, said Alien, 10 out of 10. Aliens, 10 out of 10. Alien Romulus, 8 out of 10, which is still high. I mean, it's still fantastic, and I want to go see it again so I can give my thoughts. Last act was a little iffy in parts, but it does not detract from how fantastic that the movie is. So that's kind of like, it's kind of like my Gothic review of Alien Romulus. And Come back if you want more videos like this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.